Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to another edition of Primetime News on TV1. I'm Charlene Benedict for the Newsfirst team.
And I'm Theruni Karunaratna. Here are our top stories for tonight.
Election Commission gets authority to announce the presidential election at midnight. Commission to take a few more days to finalize the date. Cabinet approval given to gazette the 22nd constitutional amendment and presented to Parliament. Sudden constitutional amendments are an attempt to scuttle the electoral process, warn the lawyers collective. Basil and Namal Rajapaksa meet with the Election Commission. SLPP undecided on Dhammika's candidacy. Niroshan Premaratna, now the leader of Vasudeva Nanayakara's party. Teacher Principal Trade Union to launch Work to Rule campaign next week.
In less than 3 hours, the Election Commission will be empowered to call for the election. Now, looking back, we have witnessed the three main pillars of democracy: the executive, the legislature and the judiciary presenting views on this presidential election. This period leading up to the presidential election is likely to be recorded in Sri Lankan history for its significant attention. Now, all of this is happening against a backdrop where last year there was calls to hold a local government election. Preparations were made, even ballot papers were printed, and in the end nominations were also called for the local government election. However, in the end, no election was held. To date, the election has not been held. And with the multiple petitions that have been filed with the Supreme Court, the general public are skeptic about whether or not this election will be held because of the experiences that we've had in the past as well. Now, earlier this morning, the Election Commission held a press conference where important details relating to the election were disclosed. However, the Election Commission is holding off on announcing the presidential election for a few more days. Chairman of the Election Commission, RMAL Ratnayaka, speaking to reporters in Colombo, said the presidential election will be declared before the end of July.
We hope to announce the election date before the end of July. On that day, we will issue the notice detailing the nomination acceptance date and the polling date. The decision will be guided by the Constitution and the Presidential Election Act. No other reason will be considered. We aim to select the most suitable date after the 17th of September and hold the poll soon thereafter.
The chairman, along with other members of the Election Commission, explained the delay in declaring the election at the press conference.
Candidates need time for campaign activities from the submission of nomination papers until the polling date. At the same time, the officials engaged in the process have a lot of work to do as well. We need to ensure that the polling day is convenient for all voters. Additionally, the nomination acceptance date should align with local customs in Sri Lanka, including practices like selecting the auspicious times for the submission of nominations and so on. These factors are considered to choose a suitable date.
ඔබතුමන්ලට බලය ලැබෙන පළමු අවස්ථාවේදී ඒ දේ ප්‍රකාශයට පත් කරන්න ඇයි ඔබතුමන්ලා කටයුතු කරන්නේ නැත්තේ?
ඔය දින 63 අරගන්න එක කිව්වේ සැප්තැම්බර් 17 වෙනිදා ඉඳන්. එතකොට අපිට සැප්තැම්බර්
We can't vote on the 17th of September as it is considered a Poya day. The day after that is a weekend. We will choose the most suitable day after considering all factors.
සලකලා බලලා තමයි අපි වඩාත්ම සුදුසු දිනය තෝරා ගන්න අදහස් කරලා තියෙන්නේ.
මේ වෙලාවේ මේ මූලික තත්ත්ව පිළිබඳව පැහැදිලිවීමක් ලබා දෙන දේවල් මා වාඩාගාරයෙන් දැනුවත් වීමක් කරගෙන
අපි 2024 වර්ෂය සඳහා ඉදිරිපත් කරපු මේ අයවැය යෝජනා සඳහා අපි ඡන්ද විමසීමට බිලියන 10
For the 2024 budget proposals, we requested 10 billion for the election, which has been allocated to us. We are currently using this allocation for polling expenses. So far, there have been no issues with funding. We will further discuss this with the Ministry of Finance officials tomorrow.
ඒ වගේම අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා තවදුරටත් හෙට දිනේදී මුදල් අමාත්‍යාංශයේ නිලධාරීන් සමග සමග සාකච්ඡා කරන්න.
පාර්ලිමේන්තු විසුවා හැරීමේ බලය තියෙනවා ජනාධිපති. මේම අවස්ථාවක් සදා වුණු කොමිසම ගන්න පියවර මොකක්ද?
එවැනි අවස්ථාවක් උද්ගත වුණොත් අපි
If such a situation arises, the Election Commission will discuss and take appropriate measures based on the situation. The Election Commission is capable of calling for elections at any time.
Now, the Elections Commission's announcement of the presidential election date or details regarding the dates surrounding the presidential election was overshadowed by the Cabinet's decision to expedite the 22nd constitutional amendment. Now, this amendment comes at a time when the President himself has said that the President's term is 5 years. 2 petitions have been submitted to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has held that there is no issue whatsoever with the provisions in the Constitution, and everybody seems to be in agreement that the election should be held by the end of this year in due time, according to the Constitution. So, against such a backdrop, when the Cabinet approves a decision to expedite a 22nd Amendment to the Constitution to quote-unquote bring some clarity into the term of the President, the natural question arises: why is this amendment deemed so critical at this juncture?
The Cabinet of Ministers has given its approval to publish via Gazette the amendments to the Constitution concerning presidential term limits. The proposed amendment involves changing the existing provision in Article 83, Paragraph B from exceeding 6 years to exceeding 5 years. Following the approval, a bill reflecting the proposed amendment has been prepared by the legal draftsman with the clearance of the Attorney General obtained. The Cabinet of Ministers further endorsed the combined proposal put forward by the President and the Minister of Justice, Prison Affairs and Constitutional Reforms to publish the bill in the Government Gazette and subsequently table it in Parliament for the necessary approval.
I apologize. You fail to understand my previous statements in Sinhala. As I mentioned, Article 83B of the Constitution clearly states certain provisions. Regardless of our political preference, this article exists as it is. However, the President and the Cabinet have decided to amend the Constitution to replace 6 years with 5 years. What does this mean? If you're pondering what happens by changing exceeding 6 years to exceeding 5 years as to how it affects the term length, then it's an issue. I cannot respond to such thoughts.
යන කියන එක ආදේශ කළාම 6 5 වෙනවද 6 වෙනවද කියන එක හිතන්න බැරි නම් ඒකට සිතුවිලි පිළිබඳ ප්‍රශ්නයට මට උත්තරයක් දෙන්න පුළුවන් කමක් නැහැ.
What is the urgency to move a constitutional amendment? The Lawyers Collective warned that if the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution Bill approved by the Cabinet is passed in Parliament by a 2/3 majority, the President must direct the Election Commission to hold a referendum which must be held within 30 days. It added that thus the country will be burdened with 2 parallel national elections, one happening soon after another, creating chaos. The Lawyers Collective in a statement said that the referendum will cost several billion rupees, while the government says there is no money for local government elections. The Lawyers Collective emphasized that there is no urgency whatsoever in lowering the upper limit of the terms of the President and Parliament. It added that the proposed amendment could well be an attempt to scuttle the electoral process by unnecessarily complicating matters. The statement added, quote-unquote, parliamentary elections will indeed follow the presidential election. There has been a robust discussion on the necessity for constitutional change relating to the abolition of the presidential form of government, electoral system, power sharing, fundamental rights and judiciary, to name a few. The Lawyers Collective denounces the proposed bill as an attempt to manipulate the electoral process and calls upon all democratic forces to oppose it.
The SLPP says it will not back the constitutional amendment if it is an attempt to delay the election.
After the Supreme Court provides its determination and if it is not harmful to the country or an attempt to delay the election, we will support it. If not, we will oppose it and defeat it.
The SJB believes the people should be allowed to elect a president.
Come tomorrow, the Election Commission will already be vested with the power to declare the election. We believe the election will be declared by the end of the month and the country will go to the polls by the end of September or the beginning of October. Cases were filed and the last trump card was also exhausted by them. It is now that he understands that he is not an elected president but a selected president. We would like to stress that the people's mandate should be respected and they should be allowed to elect a president of their choice democratically.
ජනතාව විදින දුක්ඛන්දරාව සම්බන්ධව ඔවුන්ගේ පීඩනය කුපිත වීමකින් තොරව ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදීව පාවිච්චි කරලා තම කැමැත්තට ජනාධිපති කෙනෙක් තෝරන්න ඉඩ දෙන්න.
Founder of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Basil Rajapaksa, and several others were seen at the Election Commission within just hours after the press conference that was held by the Election Commission, presenting certain details regarding dates and timelines surrounding the presidential election. What was discussed at this meeting?
Basil Rajapaksa, the founder of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Namal Rajapaksa, the national organizer, and Sakara Karyavasam, the general secretary, attended the discussion with the Election Commission. During discussions with the Election Commission, the SLPP urged against any postponement of the presidential election under any circumstances. After the 45-minute discussion, Basil Rajapaksa left the Election Commission without commenting to the media.
He discussed the necessary matters with the Election Commission at the office. With effect from midnight, the Election Commission will be vested with the power to call for the presidential election. As a custom, we visit the Election Commission ahead of any election, be it a presidential, parliamentary or local government election.
අපි ලෑස්ති මැතිවරණ කොමිසමත් ලෑස්ති. ඉතින් අපි හිතනවා ඉතින් එහාට තව කතා කරලා වැඩක් නැහැ. දැන් ධම්මික පෙරේර මහත්තයාට සහාය දෙනවද පොට්ටුවේ? මම අපේ පක්ෂ දේශපාලන මණ්ඩලයේ.
The political committee of the party will convene. Candidates intending to run will inform our Politburo. We will then have discussions accordingly.
ඉදිරිපත් වෙන සූදානම් කියන කාරණේ ඒ අනුව අපි සාකච්ඡා කරමු. ඒ කියන්නේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා පොදුජන පෙරමුණේ රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමාද ධම්මික පෙරේර මැතිතුමාද නැත්නම් ශ්‍රී ලංකා පොදුජන පෙරමුණේම කෙනෙක් ඉදිරිපත් කරන ඔය කියපු දෙන්නම සහ වෙනත් කිසිම කෙනෙක් පක්ෂයට නම් ලිඛිතව දන්වල නැහැ. ඒ කට්ටිය මැතිවෙන්න ඉදිරිපත් වෙන සූදානම් කියලා. ඔබතුමා මොකද කියන්නේ? මම දන්නවත් නැහැ. මිල්ලන්න කියලා කිව්වොත් ඉල්ලනවද? ඉල්ලන්න කියලා කියන්න බෑ. ඉතින් මම දන්වන්න ඕනේ. මම දන්වන්න තීන්දුව කරොත් ඔබතුමාට කියන්න. ඉතින් අපි හම්බ වෙනවනේ නිතරම. දැන් ඔබතුමා ජනාධිපතිතුමාගේ තරහින් දින්නේ කිසිම තරහක් නැහැ නේ ඉතින්. අපි නෙතුමාපත් කරේ. මම අපි කවුරුත් එක්ක ප්‍රතිපත්තිමය කාරණා අර පෞද්ගලික ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. අපිට පෞද්ගලික තරහක් නැහැ. අපි දේශපාලනිකයි. දේශපාලන පැත්තෙන් තරහක් තියෙනවා. ප්‍රතිපත්ති වෙනසක් තියෙනවා. ජනාධිපතිතුමා එක්ක තියෙනවා. ඒක තරහක් නෙවෙයි. ඒ දෙක පටලවා ගන්න එපා.
MP Mahindananda Alutgamage says the SLPP must back Ranil Wickremesinghe for president.
Ranil Wickremesinghe has several key strengths. His maturity, international expertise and decisive actions. That's why we should entrust the country to someone capable of handling these challenges. The SLPP will reach a policy-based decision soon. Ranil Wickremesinghe will be named as the presidential candidate and all political parties will unite behind the new alliance formed with him.
He also disclosed about a crossover from the SJB.
Sajid Premadasa cannot prevent his party chairman Sarath Fonseca from resigning, nor can he stop his health minister Rajitha Senaratne from leaving the party. By the day after tomorrow, he will see how many of his party members, including senior leaders, will join this government's program. There's been a small impact so far, only minor changes. Major changes will happen in time. The president hasn't announced his candidacy yet, so there's no need to worry. The party has not yet decided on Dhammika Pereira. What qualification does he have to be nominated by the party? That's why no decision has been made. I will not join the United National Party. If I did, I wouldn't be here. The president is running as an independent candidate. A common candidate will emerge from a unified alliance supported by all political parties. Basil Rajapaksa and President Ranil Wickremesinghe are leading the discussions. Dhammika Pereira has not been discussed or decided upon as our candidates. We will have many senior members in this party who are competing. We will not bow to anyone's money.
The SJB commented on Rajitha Sena-Ratna and Sarath Fonseca.
Definitely not. I believe Rajitha as a politician shows good political maturity in his actions. I don't think he's hesitating about his choices. He's observing who will emerge victorious. If he decides to come back and join us, it's possible. However, Fonseca has diverged from our path and I don't think he has the capability to rejoin us. He lacks the political maturity we need. We are focusing on recruiting the right people, those who are committed to working with integrity and without corruption. If others have different deals, we respect their decisions politically and will not insult them. No, I haven't heard of any such plan.
The National People's Power Rally organised in Kandy under the theme Punaruddhayata Ratamekata was chaired by leader of the NPP Anura Kumara Disanayaka today. I'm asking people like Keliya Rambukwella, Lakshman Kiriyalla and Lohan Ratwatta, please take your medicine on time. Take the correct medicine. Do not plan on dying when Anura Kumara comes into power. I must inform Lohan that you are delusional. If you were mad, there is medicine for that, but there is no medicine for delusions. We would like to inform Lohan that you must live long enough to see the compass come into power. You must see that this country that you ruined is being rebuilt in the proper way by the people of this country. Therefore, live until the compass comes into power. Is Lohan Ratwatta here? I'm asking because he said that he is coming here today. Has he not come here yet? Very well. The Election Commission convened a press briefing and announced details on the dates of the upcoming election. Nominations will be called between the 16th and the 21st from the proclamation date. From the day the nominations are called, elections will be held within 4 to 6 weeks. It seems the election will most probably be held on the 28th of September. Right after that, Bandula Gunawardena said that the cabinet took a decision to bring a constitutional amendment confirming the exact term of the president. Cabinet has approved to amend Article 83 of the Constitution. What does that mean? It means that a referendum needs to be held. A referendum in the middle of a presidential election. What will happen to that? It's approved by the cabinet today. Then a gazette should be issued. That takes a week. The bill should then be presented to Parliament. It must remain in Parliament for a period of 2 more weeks for any citizen to go to court. Then another 3 weeks are given to the Supreme Court. Then it should be brought back to Parliament once it's approved by the Supreme Court. After it's approved by 2/3 of Parliament, since the Supreme Court has said that a referendum needs to be held, Ranil Wickremesinghe gives an order to the Election Commission to hold the referendum in 30 days. By that time, Ranil will be at home. Ranil knows that he is going home for sure. He knows this and he is trying to create chaos in the country.
to create doubt in the minds of the people. He's trying to create fear and suspicion. Why is that? Who is in two minds today? It's Ranil Wickremesinghe. Who is being suspicious? It's Ranil Wickremesinghe. Who is in chaos? It's Ranil Wickremesinghe. He is trying to make the country experience the doubt and the mess that he is in.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa attended several social welfare programs in Mena. A Sakpala smart classroom was provided to the Devan Pitya Roman Catholic Tamil Mahavidyalaya under the 321st phase of the program.
I asked every school I visited whether the school library contains a constitution. I asked the same from the principal of this school and he said no. The constitution of a country is not available in the school library. The constitution is the supreme law of the country. The children should be educated on that. The children should be made to understand the democratic process and the pillars of democracy. Therefore, we need to provide the constitution in all three languages to the 10,000 plus schools in the country. We need to build a youth generation armed with the constitutional knowledge as well.
Former MP Niroshan Premaratna was appointed as the leader of Vasudeva Nanaikara's political party, the Democratic Left Front. The appointment took place in Battaramulla.
I admire Comrade Niroshan Premaratna as our leader. While our party is built on its membership, we cannot achieve our goals without establishing a strong base among the people. Success will only come if we gain widespread support. I received a phone call that truly made me pause. I promised to meet Comrade Vasu the following day and we had our initial meeting. There was nothing new in Vasu's policies. They remain consistent. I have come to find an agreement and I am committed to advancing this political force. The common people of our class have been deeply affected. History will note today as significant in Comrade Vasu's policy legacy. Vasu has always stood for the underprivileged and today he has entrusted the leadership of his party to someone from the bottom. This example is historic.
තුන්වෙනි පන්තියේ දරුවෙක්ව තමන්ගේ පක්ෂයේ නායකත්වයට දීලා ඒ දුන්නු ආදර්ශය ඓතිහාසිකයි.
The ceremony to appoint the district organisers and coordinators of Vinayagamurthy Muralidharan alias Karuna Amban's Tamil Makkal Viduthalai Pulikal was held in Battikal today. The party vice president S. Jayakumar commented on the organisation named Amman Force, which is currently being operated.
Amman Force is a group working towards social rehabilitation. These operations have been going on for 3 years to combat drugs in Vanni district and we have managed to eradicate drugs to an extent in the Vanni district. We are working against the illegal timber trafficking and deforestation. We have launched it in the eastern province as well. Amman Force is not part of our party. It is being operated as a separate group. We will decide whether we merge it with the party in the future. We have neither received any funds from diaspora nor have we asked, but they are making efforts to join with us. Diaspora organizations are willing to build and promote the Amman Force as a national group working in their favor. But our leader has not expressed any willingness. We know that diaspora organizations will support us for large-scale programs in the future.
Now this is how long there is left until the Election Commission is empowered to declare the date of the election. Now this is probably going to be recorded in Sri Lankan history as the period ahead of an election that garnered so much attention. And the main reason for this is the fact that there have been calls for the mandate of the people to be protected, for the democratic process to be ensured, and for universal franchise to be, or the general public to be allowed to exercise their franchise. In a few hours, the Election Commission will be empowered to call for or declare the date for this election. Stay tuned to News First, as we will keep you up to date as and when things unfold.
The power of the people. Ready to lead, ready to win. Jatika Janabala Vegaya.
On to some other local news now. The Teachers and Principals Trade Union Alliance has decided to engage in a 2-week Work to Rule campaign starting from the 22nd of July.
The Teachers and Principals Trade Union Alliance announced that their decision to engage in a 2-week Work to Rule campaign stems from the government's failure to address their issues.
We are withdrawing from all activities outside of teaching. Our focus will be solely on educating the children. We will not take part in any program in schools that involves politicians. Schools often involve teachers in various information gathering tasks, and we will no longer participate in those processes. We demand that the government provide an immediate solution to our problems. It is clear that there is no money to increase wages. There is talk of raising VAT from 18% to 20% to fund wage increases. However, giving a 10,000 rupee allowance to new recruits is not a problem. We will fully implement this action within the next 2 weeks. We emphasize that all teachers, principals and counsellors will support this effort.
Ranil Rajapaksa ආණ්ඩුව මේ කිසිවකට විසඳුම් නොදෙන ආණ්ඩුව.
The Ranil Rajapaksa government has refused to address our issues and has repressed our efforts. We have decided to protest against this false propaganda of Ranil Wickremesinghe. We will engage in the education process from 7:30 am to 1:30 pm. We will cease all work after 1:30 pm.
කරනු සියලු වැඩ අපි නතර කරන්න තීරණය කළා තිබෙනවා.
ඒ වුණාට මුතුමා නියෝජනය කරන පක්ෂයේ ලාල්කාන්ත මහතා සහ වසන්ත සමරතික මහතා කියන මේ වෙලාවේ වැඩ වර්ජන කරන්න අර විශේෂයෙන් අධ්‍යාපන සෞඛ්‍ය සම්බන්ධයෙන්. ඒක මුතුමා මොකක්ද මේ කරන්නේ?
නෑ මේ වැඩ වර්ජනයක් නෙවෙයිනේ. මේක වැඩ වර්ජනයක් නෙමෙයි අකුරට වැඩ කිරීමක්.
No, this is not a strike. It is a work to rule campaign. We are going to school and teaching, but our struggle continues. There is no conflict with Comrade Lal Kanta or Comrade Vasanta Samarasinghe. We have not called for a strike or continuous strike. We remain within the alliance. Over the next 2 weeks, we will take further actions. As Comrade Lal Kanta said, this is a continuing struggle, not continuous strikes, and we are committed to this ongoing effort.
Director General of Trade Unions to the President expressed these views at a press conference today.
Lal Kanta makes a sudden announcement that they will temporarily suspend the trade union actions until the election. There's no need for him to say that because we already stopped it following several discussions. University non-academic staff reported to work last morning. We managed to suspend that strike after discussions held with the minister. The railway trade union action was also stopped by our efforts. At last, former speaker also intervened. No strike was suspended by Lal Kanta, but Lal Kanta and Vasanta Samarasinghe got scared when we were ready to dispatch their resignation letters. The president clearly stated that he will not talk with the protesters and asked them to report to work if they want to discuss it. He also said there is no possibility to increase the salaries at this time. Lal Kanta and Vasanta Samarasinghe finally understood that. That's why they are announcing that they have suspended the trade union action.
The Public Service Trade Union Alliance condemned efforts taken by the government to suppress trade unions.
If you want to stop these strikes, fulfill our demands. If you want to stop the strikes, let the opposition know they should commit to addressing these issues when they come to power. That's why Deshabandhu said yesterday that trade unions are like a cancer. Everyone has forgotten their duties. Even the Inspector General has neglected his responsibilities and is now focused on trade unions. Deshabandhu should remember that the recent struggle led to a 10,000 rupee increase. We are not criticizing the Inspector General of Police or those performing general police duties. It is because of the collective struggle of all public servants that their salaries increased. Therefore, if we continue to demand 20,000 to 25,000 rupees, your salary will also increase. The Inspector General should focus on his duties instead of discussing other roles and services that don't concern us.
මේ එන්නේ රජයේ ප්‍රකාශයන්. විශේෂයෙන්ම රජය වෘත්තීය සමිති මෙල්ල කරන්න, ඒ වගේම වැඩ කරන පන්තිය මෙල්ල.
Here are the government statements, especially those aiming to suppress trade unions and the working class. We ask this from Ranil Wickremesinghe. The government claims it should raise salaries by taxing the people. They believe the small group that reported to work are loyal to them. We are asking Ranil Wickremesinghe and this government if the 10,000 rupees stipend is not being paid to this group from tax money.
රුපියල් 10,000ක දීමනාවක් ගෙවන්නේ බදු වලින් ගන්න සල්ලි වලින් නෙමෙයිද කියන කාරණේ අපි රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහත්තයා ඇතුළු මේ රජයෙන් අහනවා.
Every child deserves a healthy foundation. Beharayaya Junior College received a new water purification system guaranteeing clean drinking water for its students, the future leaders of tomorrow, with healthy minds and bodies ready to learn.
Electricity tariffs has been a widely discussed subject, especially with the massive revisions in the electricity tariffs and the massive increases that the general public in Sri Lanka had to face throughout the recent past. However, recently electricity tariffs were reduced quite substantially. Sri Lanka's revised electricity tariffs are now in effect.
Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara elaborated on the tariff revision.
In the current electricity tariff system, there has been an overall reduction of 22.49%. Specifically, this proposal includes a 26.8% reduction in the electricity bill for residential usage. The rate increase from August 10, 2022 and the electricity tariff system that existed in 2014 have been adjusted to the current tariff system. Therefore, the electricity tariff today is now lower than the increase implemented in August and the initial amendment.
ඒ කියන්නේ පළවෙනි සංශෝධනයේදී වැඩි කරපු ප්‍රමාණයටත් වඩා අඩු තැනකට අද විදුලි ගාස්තු ක්‍රමය ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා.
MP Dr. Harsha De Silva commented on this matter.
With just a week or two before the declaration of the election, the amendment, which was supposed to take 6 months, was completed in 4 months. The electricity tariff has been reduced by 22%, yet the tariff was increased, leading to a profit of 60 billion for the CEB in 2023. With a projected profit of 30 billion in the first 6 months, combined the CEB has made a profit of about 90 billion. Why reduce it by 22% just a week before the election? It seems this profit and loss will balance out to a break-even point by the end of the year.
no profit no loss තැනකට එයි කියලා තමයි මට හිතෙන්නේ.
The Electricity Users Association also reacted to the electricity tariff revision.
We cannot be happy with this reduction. A unit that used to cost 2 rupees and 50 cents is now 6 rupees. A bill for a Samurdhi beneficiary, which was 390 rupees for 30 units, is now 280 rupees, a reduction of 90 rupees. However, if the rates were still as they were before, the bill would have been 150 rupees. Therefore, it is clear that the government is not making any substantial changes.
Director General of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO, Audrey Azoulay, is on an official visit to Sri Lanka from the 16th to the 19th of July. Director General of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO, Audrey Azoulay, arrived in Sri Lanka this morning. She took part at the celebration of the 75th anniversary of Sri Lanka's membership of UNESCO at the Nelumpokuna Theatre today.
I'm also very pleased to say that at the request of His Excellency the President, we will look for options to support Sri Lanka's effort for the better safeguarding and knowledge about the sacred city of Anuradhapura, which is said, as you know, to be built around a branch of the Tree of Enlightenment. The jungle, like in many parts, has claimed its right and covered palaces, monasteries, monuments before humans made it accessible again. We stand ready to offer expertise, discuss assistance and mobilize international partners in order to meet conservation and development needs also there. For the past 75 years, we have been able to count on Sri Lanka's commitment to conquer the world's darkness through education, science and culture.
Education is a fundamental human right. It is also essential to ensure inclusive, equitable and sustainable development. Fundamental education provides people with skills, knowledge and values. They need to tackle various challenges they are likely to face in society. Sri Lanka is proud of great commitment and investment made in the spheres of education. And today, Sri Lanka education system is never before committed to the watchwords of no one is left behind. Sri Lanka has gained immensely from its membership, and I am proud to say Sri Lanka too made a significant contribution, thus making it a win-win partnership.
In education, we are transforming the system of education administration by decentralizing quality assurance activity, curriculum development, and there will be newly established provincial reform units, new education zones, division school boards, school clusters to implement the decentralized system. Our curriculum reforms will transform teacher-centered education to learner-centered system, transform curriculum to focus on STEAM education, ICT and AI, and transform the delivery system to one driven by digitalization, e-learning and m-learning. Recognizing the important role of teacher in our schools, we have taken steps to establish a new university fully dedicated to teacher education, the Sri Lanka University of Education.
The Director General of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization will also travel to UNESCO World Heritage Sites during her visit from the 16th to the 19th of July 2024.
A minor tremor measuring a magnitude of 2.7 was reported approximately 41 kilometers east of Anuradhapura earlier this evening. This was confirmed by the Geological Survey and Mines Bureau.
The seismic event was reported around 5:12 p.m. today. Seismic observation centers operated by the Geological Survey and Mines Bureau detected the tremor, which was felt in several nearby areas.
The United States of America has applauded Sri Lanka's economic stabilization efforts. This was during the 5th Sri Lanka-USA Partnership Dialogue that concluded in Washington, D.C.
The United States has welcomed the signs of economic stabilization in Sri Lanka. It has also welcomed Sri Lanka's steadfast commitment to the IMF program and reforms which will lay the groundwork for recovery, financial governance and future growth. This was announced during the 5th Sri Lanka-USA Partnership Dialogue that concluded in Washington, D.C. over the weekend. Sri Lanka expressed its sincere appreciation for U.S. economic assistance during the past crisis, totaling more than $250 million. The United States continues to support Sri Lanka's debt restructuring and economic and governance reform agenda to promote sustainable growth. Both Sri Lanka and the USA reiterated their intent to explore new opportunities to enhance market access, bilateral trade, investment and tourism. The United States expressed its commitment to supporting Sri Lanka's progress in its IMF program by encouraging private sector investment, enhancing its capacity to combat corruption and addressing food insecurity for vulnerable populations. Sri Lanka welcomed the role of the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation, which is committing $553 million to support the development of the West Container Terminal at the Port of Colombo, an investment that provides critical infrastructure and jobs. The United States welcomed Sri Lanka's goal to produce 70% of electricity from renewable energy by 2030 and to attain carbon neutrality by 2050. Sri Lanka expressed appreciation for ongoing U.S. grant assistance to help meet these goals, including technical assistance to support energy sector reform and a pipeline of renewable energy projects.
CFO Forum organized by CFA Sri Lanka, aiming to create a platform for finance officials to strategize on navigating the complexities of the economy, was held in Colombo.
The CFO Forum, organized by CFA Sri Lanka, addressed topics such as macro and microeconomic challenges, financing strategies, leveraging evolving technologies, and incorporating sustainability.
I think Sri Lanka's capital market, we have, if I may say, regressed. I think the capital market was far more active in the early 2000, maybe even the latter part of 2000, but really we can do a hell of a lot more. I think it was in 2019 or 2020, interest rates were extremely low, and we saw in a rating space, the only institution that, other than banks, because banks always come and raise tier 2 capital, other than banks, the only institution that raised 10-year long-term capital was the Ceylon Electricity Board, a public institution. Of course, looking at their debt size, that 20 billion was small, but it was significant because of the timing. And I think there are opportunities like that which we don't use. Then of course, when your interest rates are 30%, you're done. That's your top line gone. So these are, I see as gaps, and we are still not addressing it, and I'm really surprised.
CFOs representing Sri Lanka and CFA Society President, board members and CFA charter holders participated in the event.
Donald Trump chose Ohio U.S. Senator J.D. Vance to be his vice presidential running mate, as the Republican Party officially nominated the former president to run again for the White House yesterday at the start of the party's national convention in Milwaukee.
2 days after an attempt to assassinate him, former President Donald Trump appeared with a bandage on his ear at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, where he was greeted by an excited crowd with chants of "fight," a reference to the word Trump mouthed after surviving the shooting. The former president mouthed the words "thank you" and settled into a box with some of his children and U.S. Senator J.D. Vance, Trump's choice for running mate, announced early in the day. Trump is due to formally accept the party's nomination in a primetime speech on Thursday and will face Democratic President Joe Biden in the November 5th election. The 4-day convention began less than 48 hours after gunmen opened fire at a Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, killing one supporter. The gunman was shot dead and his motive remains unclear. During Monday's session, the party gave speaking slots to 6 everyday Americans who highlighted the impact inflation has had on lower and middle-income families, while Republican leaders assailed the Biden administration as being out of touch. The day began with yet another in a string of recent legal victories for Trump when U.S. District Judge Aileen Cannon threw out federal charges accusing him of retaining classified documents after leaving the White House. Trump is due to be sentenced in New York in September for trying to cover up a hush money payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels in the weeks before his 2016 election victory. But his other 2 indictments on federal charges in Washington and state charges in Georgia, both related to his efforts to overturn his 2020 election defeat, are mired in delays and could be significantly limited after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in July that he had immunity for many of his official acts as president. Biden has cast Trump as a threat to U.S. democracy, comments that some Republicans say helped foster an atmosphere that prompted the shooting, even though authorities have yet to determine the motive for the assassination attempt. Following Saturday's shooting, Biden sought to lower the temperature after months of heated political rhetoric. Biden ordered an independent review of how the gunman could have come so close to killing Trump. Congressional investigators also sought to question the head of the U.S. Secret Service, which is responsible for protecting the former president.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight.
Thank you for watching. Good night.